I'm Jonny Klumpe, and this is a PC3 media special, and I am here with VU assistant coach Pat Baldwin, and just a little sit-down interview today. As we were talking a little bit before the show about your former Big Ten player or Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, and you have 24 years of coaching experience across many levels of college basketball, D2, D1, anywhere from being a head coach at certain schools, and now you're assistant with VU. And just like to get started off with you talking about your playing days, and you actually talked about what you wanted to go to UConn originally, and then to get that ESPN experience, as you wanted to go into this field of radio and TV, but you ended up sticking with Northwestern. What just went into that decision?
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on, first of all, and really appreciate it. And I know Coach Powell wishes he could be here because, he was looking forward to this day. But, 24 years of college basketball experience and coaching, and I'm originally from Kansas. If you think about Kansas, Indiana, both states, kind of basketball states. But when I was coming out of high school, I was being recruited by Kansas and Missouri, and UConn was a school that was recruiting me. Dave Ladle at the time was the assistant coach for UConn, and he was the DePaul head coach probably about 6 or 7 years ago. And so for me, I wanted to, and I was good enough to, play at some of the good schools and best schools. And what led to my decision to go to Northwestern was several things. When I was thinking about going to Kansas, and Roy Williams was there at the time as the head coach, he had just gotten the job. My mom wanted me to get away from home. She didn't want, and I lived about 20 minutes from Lawrence, Kansas. Oh, okay. And she wanted me to get away from home. Well, Missouri was probably about 2.5, 3 hours away from the Kansas City area. And a lot of my AAU teammates went to that school. Same thing with Kansas. A lot of my AAU teammates went to Kansas as well. And Missouri kind of fit who I was too, because I was, Missouri was a physical team. Norm Stewart was a guy that liked pressure and liked physical guards, and that's how I played. And then UConn came into the picture that, when they weren't in their heyday of being really good, but they were starting to get really good with Calhoun, and Dave Ladle was the assistant coach. And there was one game that I played, and before the game I sang the national anthem. And ESPN, one of their affiliates, they were doing a special on me singing the national anthem. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Scholastic Sports America, but I was on that, and that's what it was. And I think that's where UConn came into the picture. So I was thinking about UConn, number one, because it's starting to be a really good program, but then it was really close to ESPN, Bristol, Connecticut, and I was thinking about doing something like that after my playing career was over. And I used to interview my brothers and sometimes even interview myself, as stupid as that sounds, and with different voices. But that's what I wanted to do. But Northwestern came into the picture, my dad, my mom, and we talked about life after basketball and what that meant. And Northwestern fit the bill from that standpoint, because obviously everybody knows of the academic reputation and what that means for your future if you do what you set out to do.
And then you went on to be a very impressive career at Northwestern. You won a Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. Not a lot of people can claim that they've done that. And then coach a lot of places. Now you're coaching at VU. Is there how were your playing days at Northwestern?
It was, first of all, it was tough because Northwestern, I think anybody in Big Ten country knows that it wasn't one of the blue bloods or one of the big teams in the Big Ten. So we had to fight and scrap for everything that we got. And when I went to Northwestern, we were probably one of the youngest teams in college basketball. We started 3 freshmen, 2 sophomores, and occasionally a senior, depending upon the game. And so if you think about college basketball during that time, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, you played your entire 4 years of college. So your Indianas, your Purdue's, even your Minnesotas and Wisconsin, they were older. We were younger. So it was really tough early on. And kind of fast forward to my senior year, we kind of broke through a little bit, but still didn't have enough time, in my opinion, and made it to the NIT. We beat DePaul in the first round of the NIT and lost to a good Xavier team that had Brian Grant. Brian Grant was one of the really good players that ended up at Portland, drafted by Portland Trailblazers. He was a really good player, and that ended my career. But I was pretty fortunate that I met my wife there. She was a volleyball player there. She was a big-time middle blocker there, and same class and all of that, and so we're married now. My girlfriend from college, we're married, but had a great time at Northwestern. Tremendous amount of people that I met, and they're still friends to this day. A lot of my teammates, we stay in touch to this day.
Well, so I don't want to overpass all of your coaching experience, but obviously you're coaching VU and we're located in Valpo. So just we want to talk about we talked a little bit before the show about what's been going into the culture building that you guys have done as this new staff coming in under Roger Powell, and you guys are now working together. The coaches, as you talked about, are kind of finding your groove together this year a lot better than you did last year. So if you want to tell our viewers how you guys are wanting to go, the culture you guys are building at VU.
Yeah, first of all, Roger Powell's doing an excellent job with the program and where he's been. I think everywhere he's been, whether he's been a player or a coach, he's had a tremendous amount of success. And, I think that's the first part of everything that goes into building a program is bringing somebody in that's had success, that has played at the level that we want our young men to play at, and that's really important. So if you think about Roger's success at Illinois as a player, he played under Bill Self. He played under Bruce Weber, really good coaches, and had an opportunity to play in the Final Four against North Carolina. That still kind of salts him to this day, not winning that championship. Then you parlay that into his playing career, playing with the Utah Jazz and playing with the, going overseas and playing and having success where he's been. And then he went into coaching after he was done playing and starting at Valpo, being here for 7 years. And so a lot of that success and kind of the picture that he has in his mind about what success looks like is going into the fabric and the foundation of Valpo basketball as you see it today. Obviously, we want to get to a certain level. We're not there right now, but you can see the core of what he's doing and what he's building, and he's envisioning the success based upon a lot of the things that he believes in. And one of the things that he believes in with the culture is his faith. And he's a minister. He's an ordained minister, preacher. He goes by the Rev. And that's the fabric of Valpo basketball now, and how he kind of incorporates that into the things that we do in our program.
And then one of the things we talked about before the show, and especially the way you described it to me, it just feels like the biggest, and one of the greatest examples of what he's trying to do is the Grit Award that you guys are handing out, the Grit Chain, and what it stands for. Because on the surface, it just seems like one of those oh, this guy has a floor burn, let's give him the Grit Chain for this game. But as you talked about, it's it is a lot deeper meaning of that. And if you'd want to elaborate on the deep meaning, and that's another huge part of that culture that he's trying to build.
Yeah, no, I think every program does something like that. I think, Purdue has its, thing that they do, the play hard chart. They have a play hard chart. I don't know if you know that, but for us, it's the Grit Award that we give to guys after the game. And if you're on the outside looking in, you think of it as just the numbers and the easy things that you can look at. But the Grit Award for us stands for so much more, and Coach has done a great job in helping our players understand that, obviously our staff, but also helping the outside world understand what that means. But the Grit Award, it's an acronym. The Grit is an acronym, and the G is for growing. The G is for godly. That's what our program is, and that's really important to him. So we want young men in our program that embody that spirit of being godly and God-fearing, but also the want to grow and to better themselves each and every single day. And that's what our program is doing. We're trying to build boys to men and helping them grow from 18 years old to when they're 21 and 22, being much better and stronger, whether it's in their faith or anything else, from the time that they came in here. The R is, we want resiliency. We want guys that understand the resiliency of fighting through adversity and all those things. That's really important. It talks about the relationships that he wants to have. We don't want to, and he says this all the time, we don't want to be a transactional program. We want to be a transformational program. So that's where the relationships come in, where we want to get to know each and every one of our student athletes inside and out, understand who they are as sons of their parents, who they are as brothers and friends, and we want to help them grow from that standpoint too. And we think about not who they are at 18, but who they are between the ages of 30 and 40. That's where relationships come in, where we're going to their weddings, or for Coach, he might be he might be ministering at their wedding, and doing that. So I think that's really important to him for the relationship part and being real. Real meaning he's going to be who he is, and he wants our players, our student athletes, to be who they are as well. And the I is for integrity, intensity, all those things that should encompass a program and should encompass you as a person. He really incorporates that into the things that we do, like our team times that are really important to him as well. And then the T, we talked about it. It's the transformational, it's the toughness, it's all those things that embody. So when we give the Grit Award, or when he gives the Grit Award chain, and the chain is, it's a big chain that you can put around your neck, and really he does a great job of putting it out there and show social media when we win. That grit chain goes to that guy that embodies what that acronym stands for and what that game entailed.
It's really cool because it's just like it's this cool thing that you guys do. It's not even just all about like the basketball aspect of like who the guy you're giving it to. It's about like the person they are, like on the floor, and then just in their lives, as you guys talk about. And I think that's really cool as a coaching staff, is to be ultra focused on like growing, because at the end of the day, you're coaching college kids. Like they're still only like, some of the kids you're coaching are only 18, some are 22 and like getting their way through life. But you're like doing a great job of like, at least it seems like, teaching these young guys how to become men and grow into their selves and like see who they're going to be after basketball, because basketball isn't a thing that happens forever for everybody. So like it's just really cool to see that from your guys' coaching staff. And well, this year, so you guys are now 10-12 on the year. You guys have another big game coming up on Saturday. Right now you guys are in a little bit of a skid, but I wanted to ask you, like, what have you guys been working on during this to try to break out of it? You talked a little bit about, like, before the show, about how you handle losing, but there's a adversity that happens with it, and you guys are wanting to accept that and grow from the adversity. How are you guys using that to like try to break out of this skid?
Yeah, first of all, our staff and our players were extremely competitive, and we hate to lose more than we love to win, even though we really like to win. I think some of the things that Coach helps our guys and even our staff deal with is having perspective and knowing where we came from when we first got here as a staff, knowing what we're building. He has a plan. Coach does a great job of writing his plan, making everybody see the plan and following the plan. So, in this time, yeah, we want to win every single game. We prepare to win every single game, but we also know that there are steps that we have to take in order to achieve the success that we need to achieve. We need to learn how to win close games. And if you think about, the last 6 games or however many games that, we've been in pretty much every single one of those games, and probably 4 out of the last 6, we've had leads in those games. So from that standpoint, it's not like we're not competitive. It's not like we don't have the tools or the personnel. And, yeah, you need to get older. You need size. You need all those things that you need in order to be a very good team. But it's not like we're out of these games. Probably last year you could probably say, yeah, we didn't have a chance. But we're in a situation and in a position that we can control some things, and we just have to grow through those experiences. So the things that we talk about, Coach mentions James 1, 2 through 3, and that consider it joy, all the various struggles that you go through, so that it helps you grow. It helps you grow your strength. But he said something profound the other day before our game against Southern Illinois, is just because you consider it joy going through the pain and adversity, it doesn't mean you can't win through the adversity. I love that when he said that. And that's where we are right now. We want our guys to grow. We want them to get stronger. We want to understand what we're going through, but we still want to win. Let's find a way that we can win when the chips are down and we're not playing as well as we want to. Let's still win those games. Sometimes you have to win ugly. We did that early in our non-conference games. We didn't play our best, but we still won some of those ugly games. So we're trying to teach our young guys, our group, how to win, what it takes to win, the work that you have to continue to do in order to get over the mountain a little bit, so to speak. But we're also teaching them through adversity that you become stronger. You don't separate. You don't, as a group, you get closer as a group. You grow stronger together, so that in the end, when you're pulling together and you're working as one, it helps when you achieve whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, which is to win.
And you guys are still like a pretty new coaching staff, as we talk about. Like, it's only your second year, and through these last year and a half, obviously there's still a lot of season left for you guys. But what have you learned about Coach Powell and over the last year and a half coaching with him?
Yeah, I've had the fortune of every place that I've been, we've pretty much rebuilt to get to a certain status and a certain level. And also almost every place that I've been, minus my time at Loyola, I've been with, in Georgetown, I've been with a head coach that was his first year. So the thing that happens with first year coaches is they have to establish their philosophy. They have to kind of go into who are they as a head coach, who are they going to be, what is their staff going to look like, and what is this culture of this program. And so the thing that we had to learn with Coach Powell is, who is he? What does he want with his program? What role is each of his assistant coaches going to play? What kind of players that he wanted in his program? And then how does that look in the big scheme of things, and how does he want that to grow? So we had to learn that in year one. I wouldn't say it's on the fly because we got here May or June, but it's still a learning process. And then when you get into the games, there's no guidebook for how to be a head coach, because you have to be yourself. And I think I give Roger credit because he's himself when he coaches, and we have to do a great job as assistant coaches of allowing him to be who he is, but also imparting or giving the things maybe that we've taken from different programs that we can give him. So we have to do a great job on our part as well. So from year one to now, we have a better idea of, and there's still growing pains, but we have a better idea of What does Roger like? What type of player does he like? In game situations, what are we doing the last minute of games? What's our rotations going to be? Do we like these matchups? We have a better idea and understanding of what he's looking for. So when you have that type of togetherness, when you have that type of synergy amongst your staff, that ultimately helps your players. And we're still getting better. There's still more that we can do. We have to learn even more about each other so that we can impart some of those things that either we're giving to Roger or he's giving to us that we can give to our players. We're not happy from the standpoint of we feel like, man, there's some games that we should have won in this stretch, but we also are encouraged by the kids and their growth. And that's the biggest thing that we can ask of is that they continue to grow, that they can continue to get better, they continue to work, and we fight through this adversity.
Yeah, and there's always room to improve no matter, like, even if you're at the top of the top, like, there's something. You're never perfect. That's the great thing about basketball as a sport is nobody's ever perfect. There's always room to improve on. But what have you learned about yourself in this last year and a half coaching with Coach Powell's? Is there anything that's stood out to you? He's like, oh wow, him pointing this out made me realize I could be doing something like that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I've been a part and been with some really good head coaches and assistant coaches, and they have their niche. There's coaches that are successful because of the way that they do things, or they've taken it from different places that they've been. And I've learned every place that I've been, but I think one of the things that is really interesting to me is it's almost like the separation, you could talk about political, but the separation between church and state. I think the one thing that Coach Powell does a great job of is making us understand the separation between basketball and life. And basketball is fun. Basketball, we love it because we've played it for so long. There's energy to it, there's excitement to it, but it's not the end-all, be-all. And sometimes we get so wrapped up into just basketball that we forget about some of the big picture things. And the big picture things for him is God, it's family, it's friends. That's really important to him. So what he's helped me with is that separation of kind of stepping back and saying, it's not all about basketball. We're trying to, on our DNA wall, he calls it, turning our boys to men. We're trying to turn 18-year-olds to men. And so by the time they're 22, by the time that they're married, by the time that they have children, that we've had some stake or some part in their growth. And he's allowed me and made me step back even more because I'll be honest with you, I was all about basketball. This next win, this next recruit, I was all about that. And not that anybody else wasn't, but we're all kind of built that way as coaches, as players, but he infuses faith in God into our staff, and I think it's by design that he has certain people around him, and that's what makes him who he is and our program who we are. But it's really good for us, and it's good if you have that foundation, that core, that you can step back, you can not be so full of yourself, and get your ego out of the way, and understand that this is not just about you and about basketball. So that's what he's given to me.
Yeah, but I'm a competitive person myself. I hate losing, but it's a great, at the end of the day, basketball's not the only thing that is going on in everybody's life. But we talked a little bit before the show. Obviously, you haven't only coached at VU. You told us you got to coach at Georgetown under one of the best basketball players ever, in Patrick Ewing, NBA, multiple-time NBA All-Star. He was one of the greatest college players too. What was that like, being like learning from him as like a head coach? I mean, like what stood out to you from like his coaching philosophy?
Yeah, that was the first time, you know, if I'm thinking about my 24 years in college coaching. So I worked with Chris Collins, who was at Northwestern, and I kind of laid the foundation for this. His dad is Doug Collins. Doug Collins was a all-star. He played with the Philadelphia 76ers.
Okay,
He played with Daryl Dawkins. He played he coached Michael Jordan and Grant Hill. So Chris had a background of understanding the pro game, but he also had played at Duke and coached under Mike Krzyzewski, Coach K. And so I learned so much from that. So I was going to say that was being with Patrick Ewing helped me from the standpoint of when you sit down with Doug Collins and you talk basketball, there's such a level of expertise and knowledge that you get. He's forgotten more than we can ever know. That you learn what the game of basketball is about from other perspectives. Prior to that, I had been with only college coaches as an assistant. So when I went to Georgetown and with Patrick Ewing, I learned the game from another perspective as, being with a Hall of Famer, being with an all-star, all those things, to now all the things that he learned from Big John Thompson, from Pat Riley when he was with the Knicks, and then coaching in the NBA, I learned a whole different perspective on coaching and how you kind of manage different players. When I went to Georgetown, NIL was kind of in its second year of existence, and that was kind of like being in the pros. So he was dealing with the players the way that probably a pro coach, NBA coach, would have to deal with his players that is now earning money. Yeah. And so that was a different perspective. But I count my days at Georgetown as one of the best. I mean, I've had some tremendous experiences, but it's one of the best learning things. First of all, he was very good. You know, it was unfortunate that I didn't have a lot of time with him, but he was very good at what he does. And the other thing is just the type of person he would give the shirt off of his back to you. Being a part of the Big East Conference, which if I had gone to the UConn, I would have been a part of the Big East, but that was something that in the back of my mind was like, man, this is great. You get to compete against some really good, tough players in some of the most venerable, places like Madison Square Garden, competing there. The Big East tournament, you're playing against Villanova, who's won national championships. You're coaching against, at the time, at St. John's. But it's really good coaching under him and learning from him.
And then, well, that's just, I can't even imagine, like, wrap my head around just being able to coach under, like, such like a Hall of Famer, like one of the best basketball players ever. Was just such a, like, cool concept. But obviously, you're currently at VU, and, like, what are your guys' goals for us this year? Obviously, goals can change from the beginning to the end of the year, and not everybody's goal is to win, like, championships, but obviously, like, I bet you guys are still working. You really want to win that Missouri Valley Conference once that tournament comes around, but also you got to finish the regular season before that. So what's the, like, goal for the rest of the year for VU?
Yeah, and I'll go from, if you're talking about winning championships, that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
And in between that, obviously from last year to where we ultimately want to get to, there's some goals that we want to meet in there. And one is our continual growth where we are right now from year one to year two. And that's getting our sophomores older and better and stronger and understanding the game even more, developing their leadership and developing them as people. That's a goal. when we talk about, the ultimate goal in college basketball is to win a national championship. The ultimate goal is, before you get there, you got to get to the NCAA tournament. In the Missouri Valley Conference, sometimes it could be a 2-bid league. Yeah. It had been in the past. Lately, it's been a 1-bid league. So you have to win your Missouri Valley. You have to hopefully get a number 1 seed where you have some buys and you kind of get to, the later rounds of Missouri Valley Conference championships or semis and championships to be able to be in position to, punch your ticket to the NCAA tournament. So those are our goals. Let's continue to grow where we are right now. Let's get older and say this is the end of the season, and we have to think about where we go from here. Get players that fit who we are as a program, that fit Roger Powell, that can mesh and be congruent with our current players. Get players that help us get to the next level, and then once you get to that next level with those players, get that continuity, and then win the Missouri Valley Championship. Yeah. We talked about it before that it's really, really hard to win. Coach Powell knows that better than anybody else. It's really hard to win. A lot of things need to be in alignment. Yeah. And your coaching staff has to be in alignment. Your players, the synergy amongst them has to be great. The pieces have to fit like a puzzle in order to get to where you are. And then when you do have adversity, are you able to withstand that? Are you able to counter that adversity or that situation or that issue with the strength behind it in order to overcome it? And Coach Powell knows that. He's working extremely hard every single day. We are the stewards of kind of that ship as well to help him and as he guides our players going forward. So we have a lot of goals, high aspirations. He's been in the national championship, so he has high aspirations and he has high standards, but we won't do that and he won't do that without the infusion of the people that are in there and God, being the center of that.
And it's really hard to win in college basketball, like even just getting to the tournament to begin with, as you talked about, like winning the Missouri Valley Conference in its own right is a mini stretch for the NCAA tournament itself. You still got to win 5 or 6 games against really high-level basketball teams, and that in itself is one of the harder things to do. I had a little question about, because you got to coach at Northwestern, which was your alma mater, and you actually led them to a March Madness win. I want to talk about, was that a nice, did that feel really good as a coach being able to win one with your alma mater, where you weren't lucky enough to win one as a player, but that give any closing for you as a someone who's been a part of the Northwestern program as a whole, was winning that tournament game a really good experience for you?
Yeah, no, it was. I think anytime you are a high school kid and you go into college, you see March Madness, the song, all the stuff, One Shining Moment. You want to be a part of that. You want to have that as that you can say, I stamp it on your passport. Yeah. And for me, we came up short. We were, didn't have all the success that we wanted to have my first 3 years. My last year as a senior, we had a coaching change and then brought in Ricky Birdsong, God rest his soul, who we were at one point, we were 9-0 in our non-conference, and our first Big Ten game was a team that you love, Purdue, and we lost Big Dog Robinson. Glenn Robinson hit, and I just saw the clips the other day. He had a baseline jumper. It seemed like he was behind the rim or behind the backboard over 3 defenders, and then I missed a short little jumper to help us win our first Big Ten game and go to 10-0. But we didn't have that success. But so we went to the NIT, we beat DePaul, we lost to Xavier. So the NCAA tournament was the thing that you wanted to get to. So it felt like, to me, I didn't achieve the goals that I had wanted to. And fast forward, getting back to my alma mater, Chris Collins, I'm very fortunate that he brought me back to my alma mater, and my my wife could come back to her alma mater as well, and then our kids could see what we went through and have that experience as well. To get to the NCAA tournament was validation.
Yeah.
I can recall when, and actually it was before we were playing Purdue, after we had that Michigan win, that long pass, and Derek Pardon hit the shot to beat Michigan. It's crazy. You should look it up. But we beat them, and we felt like, okay, that's the game that we won that put us over the hump in getting to the NCAA tournament. So I was speaking before our next game against Purdue, and tears were just flowing down my eyes, just talking about the validation of what I wasn't able to achieve as a player, and now doing it as a coach, and having my teammates that were there, watching me speak and being at games, to have that be validation for them as well. I mean, there was no greater feeling.
And you guys even got to end up winning a game in the tournament.
Yeah.
Whether you beat somebody or not, but it was just like, that reminded me. I was like, oh yeah. I mean, that, as you said, I couldn't find the word for it, but validation was like, had to be very like validating.
And the funny thing about that, Coach Powell went from Vanderbilt to Gonzaga, so we beat Vanderbilt. Our next game was against the number 1 seed Gonzaga.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. It's crazy. And then we're now coaching together.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is actually crazy. We're running a little bit out of time here, but we didn't get to ask you, like, how did you and Coach Powell like meet, and then like what got him to want you on his staff?
So a very good friend of mine, really close family friend. He's younger than me, but Wayne Simeon, who played at Kansas during that same time that Roger Powell played at Illinois, are very good friends. They both are big into their faith, and I had called Wayne and said, hey, I like what I hear about Roger Powell. Would love to be a part of his staff, and kind of we officially met from that that way, and so that's how we met. The rest is history. From there, we talked, and there seemed to be a lot of things that were in common that we wanted. But it was really good. I'm glad that I'm here. I'm very happy that I'm here, and I'm trying to do everything I can possibly do to help Roger win and help Valpo get back to where they used to be.
Well, thank you. I mean, thank you for coming here and sitting down for the interview. I had a great time. I can't thank you enough for coming here. It's a great opportunity to meet you and be able to talk to you about college basketball. It's my personal favorite sport. I could talk about it for hours and hours and hours, but I can't thank you enough. Once again, this is Pat Baldwin. I'm Jonny Klumpe for PC3 Media, and we will see you on our next special or our next live show.